Donovan Clinton.
I'm Donovan Clinton, and you're watching Dizzy's Discussions. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video of Dizzy's Discussions. Today, sitting with me is somebody very special in my life. Everyone has that one person that they call uncle or a second dad, even though you're not even really related to him. But this is who that is for me. A great person, great father, great husband, and not to mention he wasn't too bad at football either. He was a Hall of Famer at Bishop Vermont. From there, he went to USC, had a great career there, which is why he was drafted in the third round by the Cleveland Browns. Nearly played 10 years with them. He had 12 interceptions, 2 taken to the house, almost 400 solo tackles. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Daylon McCutcheon. Appreciate you being with us today.
Wow, man, I appreciate you having me. I'm excited. Been looking forward to this.
Almost 400 tackles. You think that's accurate?
I think it's way too many. Way too many. I didn't think of myself as a tackling guy, but when I got to the league, they questioned like my size, you know, and I think I took it personal. So I wanted to prove to everyone that I could be just an all-around good player. But like I said, too many for me.
That's awesome. Well, your career, that could be a whole nother video in itself. I spit out some numbers, which is kind of tiny compared to all the accomplishments you have on the field. But I want to talk to you about some things you've been through off the field and the journey you're going through still today. And it may be tougher than anything you've been through as an athlete, but the month of May just passed, and of course that's Mental Health Awareness Month. And as a football player, a long career, we see tons of people go through CTE, go through mental health issues. Talk about your journey in terms of mental health and some of the things you went through.
Yeah. I think for me, it was just the added pressure, you know, throughout the years, you know, starting probably in high school and just having that pressure of making it, you know, to the top. And then when I got to college, it was, all right, you're going to get drafted. I had a single parent mother. I had a sister, and I felt like they all depended on me to make it and kind of like help us get out of some tough times. And so I always felt that pressure, man. And it was good and bad at times because I felt that pressure was a huge motivator for me. So it also like kept me in line and kept me going because I knew that I had people that depended on me. But then it's like that you always fear of, you know, like if you aren't able to get over that next obstacle, the people that you're letting down. And so I think that's the biggest thing, man. It's just like feeling that pressure of not accomplishing, you know, and that peer pressure of the expectations other people put on you. But for me, I felt like I had to realize who was important in my life and whose opinions really mattered. And I think that started to make a big difference for me.
For sure. Now, you mentioned your loved ones, you mentioned your family, your mother, your sister, your father, your husband. And even though we love playing football, this physical sport, what's most important to those around us is our health and our safety. Talk about some things that you feel loved ones could pick up in terms of, okay, this isn't normal. Okay, he's acting different. When should loved ones take action in terms of making sure that their child is okay mentally?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest signs are like when that person starts to like change their patterns. You know, we're all like creatures of habit, you know, and it's like they usually get up at around the same time, you know, kind of have the same events going on. So I think when that person starts to become a little distant, maybe when they're not as talkative, you know, when they don't seem like they want to be around everyone. I think for me, just because I've always been so family oriented, you know, and when I've had my own issues, I think like my wife, she would pick up on it because like if I didn't really want to be around, and I'm a huge family person, so I noticed it in myself when I felt like there was times where I'm not gonna say it had nothing to do with me not caring about my kids or this whatever. I just felt like my emotions were different with them, you know. So it's times where I felt like I took out things on them where normally I would have never have. And so it's just kind of like those, I think, sway of emotions. Like if you see like someone, they're, you know, they get angered really fast and stuff like that. I think those are some of the key points that you should look for.
For sure, for sure. Now we're in a time where um, we see a lot of the younger generation, what they turn to when they feel that pressure, when they feel that anxiety and sometimes depression, they turn to other things, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, and it doesn't often cure anything. It doesn't often help anything. It for the most part makes things worse, and we see people take their own lives, unfortunately. Talk about how you were able to avoid these things and how you feel the younger generation should and could avoid these things.
Yeah, that's a great question. All of the things that you were talking about, as far as like the drugs and the alcohol and things like that, when it comes down to it, it's just a band-aid.
Yep.
You know, like it doesn't fix anything. All it does is it makes you feel good for the moment. And maybe that night you're like, oh, okay, cool. I don't have to deal with that no more. And as soon as you wake up, you're back in the same place.
Right.
You're back in the same place and you're dealing with the same thing. So for me, I never was a drug person. You know, I had family members that I grew up with that dealt with that demon. And so I just always, that kind of always scared me and I didn't want to deal with that. I've drank, you know, occasionally, you know, socially or whatever, but I just felt like there were times where I drink to kind of avoid, you know, certain things. And like I said, I wake up in the morning and you're still fighting that same demon. So one of the things that I felt that was huge for me was, it was who I surrounded myself with. All right. And I think that's a big factor in, you know, someone's like mental health is my mom always said something. She always said birds of a feather flock together. And I think that's huge. You know, starting from high school, I tried to surround myself with people that had similar goals, that were driven, that were motivated, that we could push each other. And that's the group of friends I had. And I felt like when you start to have people in your life that have negative vibes, that are pessimistic, that, you know, judge you, all that negativity, it developed something in you. And so there was times in my life where I had to escape certain friendships, distance myself, and change the people that were around me because I wanted to be around people that were, like I said, were going to motivate me. We were going to push each other, and that I could lean on and that could help pick me up, you know, the times that I was down.
For sure, for sure. Now, after you got done playing, you went into coaching shortly after. Started, if I'm not mistaken, you coached at Almont for a little while, and then you coached me and Dyson when we were little. Shout out Wano Cowboys. I think it was the best team in the nation, respectfully. But from there, you go on to coach in the NFL. You coach for the Jets. Coach guys like Darrell Reeves, Jamal Adams, some great guys that have been through the organization. Talk about when you started to notice, okay, it's not just about me. It's about spreading what I know to other people, helping other people out, whether it was high schoolers, little kids, and or even these NFL guys were getting paid millions of dollars. Talk about when you realize the influence you have.
Yeah. What was crazy is that one of the biggest things for me was when I retired from the NFL, I thought like, all right, I've saved some money. I've had a good career. I'm going to walk away. Everything's going to be great. I don't have to work no more. This is going to be amazing. And I felt like that probably for about a year. And then what I realized was that I didn't know my identity. You know, because when I was growing up, I always looked at myself, Daylon McCutcheon, the football player. So when football got taken away from me, when I was done, I honestly didn't feel like I had a purpose anymore. I didn't know what my purpose was. You know, I always just identified with scoring touchdowns, making plays. I missed that competition, you know. And so that was the beginning of my struggle, was figuring out who I was as a person, because I wasn't a football player anymore, which took me to coaching. And that's what brought out something in me, man, where I felt that I could motivate these young men and help them achieve their goals and dreams, just like I had coaches back in the day that believed in me and helped me get to where I was. And so that's what I loved so much about it. It was that it wasn't just about like how I could help those kids. That was important, but it gave me a purpose too. You know, so I just felt like I had so much knowledge, and I had a passion and love for the game, and I wanted to pass it down on to the guys around me. And so where I didn't get the competition as a football player as far as being out there and competing, I got it from seeing the guys that I was coaching and teaching, seeing them succeed. And that was almost more gratifying than, making the plays myself.
That's awesome. Well, you get the opportunity to go to New York. You take off. Your family stays here in California. Again, circling back to mental health. How was that mentally being out there kind of on your own? Of course, they would visit, you would visit, but you were essentially kind of out there on your own. How was it for you being able to say, okay, I'm going to do what I'm out here to do, but also how were you able to realize the importance of family and the role they play in your life?
Yeah. I was extremely fortunate that when I got the call from the Jets and they offered me the job, I sat down with my wife and she was 100% supportive. And she told me, she goes, look, she goes, you'll never know if that's what you truly want to do unless you go do it.
Right.
So I knew it was going to be tough. She knew it was going to be tough. I was going to be on the other side of the country. But she motivated me and pushed me to go, go down that path and see what it was all about.
Yeah.
I loved coaching in the NFL. I loved competing and teaching those young men at that level.
Yeah.
And so it was a great experience. Very challenging being on the other side of the country and dealing with family.
Yeah.
And anyone that knows me, like, man, like I got it tatted on me. Like I always say family first,
Yeah.
and like I said, I grew up in a single parent home. So me having that role as a father, I don't take very lightly. And so I want to be there for my kids,
Yeah.
and so it was part of the reason why I ended up walking away from coaching is that I felt like it wasn't what was best for us, as a whole, and just seeing my kids' face when I did see them. There was the smiles, but then at the same time when I left, I seen the frowns, and the frowns hurt a lot more than the joy that I got from the smiles. So I realized that that I needed to walk away, and I truly believe in life everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You might not understand it at that moment. You might go through some tough times or question why certain things are happening, but I truly believe everything happens for a reason. But my wife, she ended up getting diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was right towards the end of the last season I coached. I had just got offered an extension with the Jets, and I had planned on taking it.
Yeah.
But once I realized where we were at and she got diagnosed, I knew that she needed me here to support her, and my family needed me more than anything. And there wasn't even a question. I knew what the move was, and I feel like it was best for me to be home.
For sure, for sure. Now you bring up your wife getting cancer. Shout out Auntie Shauna. That's my second mom right there. You brought up her having cancer, and it was kind of, want to say perfect timing, because of course that's an unfortunate situation, but you were able to come back. Talk about how you were able to support her and be there for her the way she supported you in terms of going to coach, but also again back to mental health. When we hear cancer, we automatically assume the worst. We think of the worst. Talk about how you dealt with that mentally, and also how you were still able to be a supporting husband and a great father to help lead your kids through this as well.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most challenging times I've ever been through, that our family's ever been through.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned earlier, the biggest thing that I got out of that was we saw how our family came together.
Yeah.
Man, we had so much support.
Yeah.
There were people that, especially, and you realize how much the mom and wife does, like you take that for granted. And like when I had to start doing all that stuff, when you're preparing all the dinners, when you're doing all the cleaning, when you're doing all the day-to-day stuff, when you're the one has to take the kids to school, and you're like, damn, like, oh, she does a lot more than I think she does. Like, you take those things for granted, man. So we had people that were cooking dinners for us, just people that were here, supported, like mentally, just, talking with us and sharing their experiences. And that was huge for us. So
Right.
I was, we were all very grateful for our surrounding family and them coming together and rallying around us and supporting her. And I think that changed her mental state too. Like you said, when we first heard the word cancer, it was just like, I've thought the same thing. It's just like, it's over. Like,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
always thought that. But I think of your mindset plays a big role, especially when you have to go through a thing like chemo, like she did, which gets me to, um, I think that the one of the biggest things that I've learned from this whole mental health thing is that it's not good to keep everything inside.
Right.
You could hide it, you could try to as long as you can, and I'm not talking about. I know as men, we're taught to like hold everything in, be
Right.
tough, and I do believe there's times where you just have to knuckle up and be tough and fight through stuff.
Yeah.
That's how life is, man.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go through over some walls. You're gonna have to fight through some obstacles. So I'm not talking about just whining and crying and breaking down.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about there's times where things are gonna feel too heavy,
Right.
and there's gonna be that great pressure that you feel on your shoulders. There's nothing wrong with talking to someone
Yeah.
and getting that off your chest. And what I realized was because a lot of times when you're going through those things, you feel like you're the only one in the world that's experiencing that.
Right.
No one knows how I feel.
Right.
No, I'm in hell, and no one ever has been in this place before.
Right.
And when I sat down with like loved ones, people that I trusted, people that I felt like I could confide in, a lot of times you realize like they needed more than you. Like they're going through the similar things. They might go through the same thing.
Yeah.
And then you hear maybe their opinion or how they got through it. How did they get through it? And it helps you get through it too. Or your opinion, how you tell them how you're feeling. It helps them get through that also. So I'm a big believer, man, in sitting down and talking with someone. There's been times where I've gone through some tough times, man,
Yeah.
where I felt like I was at the bottom,
Yeah.
and there was no place to go. And I've talked to people, and I'm telling you, I always felt better. I always felt better afterwards, man. And I feel like I'm a tough guy.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been through some tough times. I feel like there's times where I fought through it on my own. But then I also know that there's times where I needed someone to lift me up, when I was down. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
For sure. For sure. Now, we talked about what you've gone through after being a player, being a coach, being a husband, and now, of course, fatherhood, which you, like you say, you don't take lightly at all. But something tragic happened. Your wife gave birth to triplets, Cheyenne, Malia, and Imani, three beautiful girls. Sadly, Imani, there's complications and she passes away. Something that I can't imagine going through as a father. Talk about how, again, you kind of cope with that mentally, but also as the head of the household, you led your family through it as well.
Yeah. Another challenging time, man. And that's the thing, man. Like that's what life is. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna have those roller coasters at times. But when I stepped back and looked at the grand scheme of things, the big picture, I saw even though we lost a beautiful angel. I realized how fortunate I was because I still had two young girls that still needed me to be there for them,
Yeah.
and still needed me to support them and guide them and believe in them. And I needed to step back and see the big picture. And when I was in the moment, I didn't see that. I dwelled on that loss. But when I look back I just felt the blessings that were around me and my three other children.
Yeah.
So like I said, that was another time where we had people that rallied around us, supported us, showed us tons of love. I remember Shauna talked to other people and
Yeah.
other parents that had lost children,
Yeah.
and just hearing their stories and how they dealt with those situations. I think that helped a lot also. So you feel you're never really gonna accept it.
Yeah.
I just think you find a way to deal with it and be
Yeah.
at peace with it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a person of faith, then you realize, like I said, that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, you know, And to be honest, man, like my children are my everything.
Yeah.
And like I told you, there was a time in my life where I felt like I didn't have a purpose or I didn't know my identity.
Yeah.
So those were one of the other things when I sat down and talked with someone, they really made me realize how big of a role being a father is.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you take that as granted. Like I looked at it like I'm a dad, but it's like, man, being a dad is awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's a great thing, just the experiences that you have with your children and supporting them and watching them grow. And like I said, for me, I always questioned. I wasn't really exactly sure what that role meant because I didn't have my dad around.
Yeah.
So some things I had to go and I had to learn as I went. I didn't have that role model right there in front of me, showing me how it was all the time. So there were times where I didn't feel like I knew exactly what I was doing, but I worked my way through it.
Yeah.
And I've just tried to be for them everything, that I didn't have, at that age. And like I said, so that gave me a purpose. That also was another reason that gave me a purpose. And I'll share with you something. I won't get 100% into the details, but I'll share with you something I've never told anyone. But so to this day, I have on my voicemail. If you call my voicemail, it's Dyson's voice on it, right? And he was probably about 4 years old, and I had asked him to do that. And so his voice is on there. And I would just say this, his voice at one point in my life saved my life and is the reason why I'm here today.
Wow.
So the reason why his voice is on my voicemail is a constant reminder to me.
Yeah.
When I start to feel like I'm going down that wrong path again, when I hear that, it wakes me up.
Yeah.
And keeps me heading in the right direction.
For sure. Now, you mentioned Dyson, which is, of course, your oldest son, and you have 2 daughters. So you have to try to teach a boy how to become a man and also teach girls how to kind of become women. Talk about first with your son Dyson. You coached them as well, coached them hard. I was I was part of those car rides sometimes when he would have a bad practice or maybe he's late and you would give him the business. But and we talk about it still to this day, and I tell him, like, man, I don't know what I would do if my dad talked to me like that. But we both know that it was always something that he needed to hear. It may not have been pretty, it may not have been, what he wanted to hear, but it was what he needed to hear. Talk about being his father and giving him the balance between giving him those messages that he needs to hear, but also being that loving and caring father that he needs.
Yeah. Being a parent is one of the hardest things that you can do as an adult. And it is tough at times having that balance of love and support and then motivating, teaching. Every kid is different. So you can't just say, well, if I have 3 kids, like they all are not motivated the same way.
Right.
They're all not driven the same way.
Right.
So it's like you might have to get on this kid a little more than this one. So one might be a little more self-driven than the other. So like there's a balance to it all. But what I always realized was that I'm your father. I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Like I never liked yelling at any of my kids or whatever, but sometimes it's like you have to like put your foot down to motivate them. And sometimes you see stuff in your kids that they don't see in themselves.
Right.
So there might have been times where Dyson I felt like he was kind of starting to get off the path, and I know what his dreams and goals were.
Right.
And so I feel like as a father, it's my job to keep him, on the straight and narrow, and for him to continue to follow that path so I could help him get to where he wanted to go. So there's times where, I jumped on him, and it was because I believed in him, and I loved him, and I knew that he was capable of getting where he wanted to go. And so if he started to get, like I said, get off that path, I had to get on him. And then you try to just instill in him the values that you feel like he's going to need to be a successful, husband, boss,
Yeah.
a successful person, out there in life. And so that's the biggest thing for him. It's just, I've always done everything I've done with love in my heart,
Hmm.
and pushing him to motivate him to be the best person he could be. For my daughters, it's way different. It's way different. I can't lie, man. It's scary at times. But I know that there were wild young men out there now, like I was in
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah.
And so my job is to try to teach them and help them become respectful young ladies, and so to kind of deter them away from, some of the scary things that are out there.
Yeah.
So that's a whole thing for me, man. Is like I think sometimes as a child you don't realize what's out there, and so you just think your parents are getting on you for no reason. But I told Dyson, like I said, look, man, I said it's no different than, I said that he's had experiences,
Hmm.
and let's say it was a bad experience,
Yeah.
right? So if he sees his sisters about to go down that same road, what would you do?
Stop
Like,
them.
you stop them, right? You give them a heads up. That's not good. Now they might think, oh, you're just hating and you don't want me to have no fun and this or whatever. Nah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep you from making the same mistake that I went. It's no different than maybe you and your brothers, right?
Right.
Like if you made a mistake and you see your brothers about to make the same mistake, like you're gonna jump on them.
Right.
You're not trying to hate on them or whatever. Like, look, man, learn from me. You know what I'm saying? My mom would always say, like, she says, some kids, you tell them that the stove is hot, and guess what? They're fine. They're like, okay, all right, mom, the stove is hot.
Yeah.
And some of them have to go touch it.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to keep them from touching the stove. Like, I know it's hot.
For sure.
Mm.
Last question for you here, before we end it. You see Dyson's up at University of Washington chasing his dreams. China and Malia, they're doing the same. They're getting ready for high school. They're gonna get ready to chase their dreams as well. As a father, how much joy does it bring to you to see your kids growing the right way? You're raising them the right way, and now they're about to see all their dreams come true.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, like, one of the most rewarding things that I've ever experienced is just being a parent and watching them grow and watching them enjoy life, and seeing them, it's baby steps at times, but seeing them accomplish their goals and dreams. So like with Dyson, he would always tell me that he wanted to go to college,
Yeah.
play college football.
Yeah.
And so there was times where I know that he probably doubted himself,
Yeah.
and you don't see the long-term process. But, I just told him, I try to keep him, like I said, on the same path, and continue to breathe confidence into him, and
Yeah.
try to teach him and motivate him. And so when he got his scholarship to Washington, I'll be honest, man, that was a way better feeling than when I signed my own.
Wow.
It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. I got so much more enjoyment out of him, seeing him, be happy and enjoy that moment than experiencing it myself. And so I could only imagine as he goes along. I've always told him I'm gonna support him. I'll have his back 100%
Yeah.
in whatever he does.
Yeah.
And so right now, it's, if he wants to play pro football, then I'm gonna motivate him, try to push him to do that.
Yeah.
If he told me one day that he wants to be a lawyer, doctor, whatever it is, well, he knows me. Like, I'm not gonna be any more, like, less driven or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm still gonna get on him,
Yeah.
and now I'm gonna push him to be the best damn lawyer, doctor, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. I just know what my son's capable of. I know he's a good kid. He's a smart kid, and so I'm always gonna push him to be the best he could be at whatever it is. For my daughters, it's very similar. So it's the same thing. It's baby steps, and they're in junior high now.
Mm-hmm.
And I look forward to them, promoting and going to high school. And I know that they have, different dreams. Cheyenne plays volleyball. She enjoys that. And I love watching her compete. Malia loves doing art. So that's when I see her do things and I can see her eyes light up after she does stuff. It gets me excited, because they're happy. And so, like I said, I just want them to always know that I'm always going to support them. I'm always going to push them to do the best that they can in everything, and that we're just always going to be here for them. And that's what family is all about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great way to end it off, saying that's what family all about. I just want to say thank you. You're someone, I'm not one of your own, but you always treated me like that, like I'm one of your own. And I just want to say thank you for even taking the time to do this interview on behalf of, I mean, every kid. I'm not the only one that you are a mentor, a role model, a father to. Thank you. Thank you for all that you've done, all that you continue to do. You've been through a lot of stuff that a lot of people would stay down once they got knocked down, but you got back up every single time, and it's a huge influence, and you're someone that I know I can always look up to, and I appreciate you.
Nah, I appreciate that, man. Much love,
For
always.
sure,
You know
for sure,
that.
for sure. For everyone still watching, thank you so much. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with others. Stay tuned. I'm gonna have another video for you real soon.